Welcome, beautiful Soul Tribe. We are here for another My Health podcast with the incredible Souvereign, who is a favorite here on our My Health podcast, and introducing Shay Douglas. These guys run Earth Heroes TV. They are what I call the divine masculine, the sacred masculine. They really embody the balance between their inner masculine and their inner feminine, without going too much toxicity through the masculine, and without being pushovers with that feminine energy. They really hold the line in such a beautiful, profound way, and offer so much glorious content to the world in helping us all to upgrade. Our theme of today, upgrade into being a new earth human. So we're going to explore today what that concept means, both in terms of consciousness, but both Souvereign and Shay can certainly help us with practical tools, how we can grow our own permaculture and these kind of concepts as well, because many people are now looking into getting into new earth communities, off-grid living, and what that means to almost, I guess, we're going backwards to go forwards in the way that we're living. So first of all, let's say hello to Souvereign. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm great. Nice. Thanks for bringing me on. It's great to be here.
So good to have you back. And Shay, welcome.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I really love and appreciate being on this conversation with you, and all your podcasts in the past. I must say, all your guests who have been on are just super inspiring, and love the conversations that you open up and the questions that you ask. I always find the quality of life is dependent on the quality of questions that we ask ourselves, and we ask those in our community. So I appreciate what you're doing in the world. So thank you for having me on and asking some great questions.
You're such an earth angel. Actually, Shay, I felt recently, and I haven't shared this with you, but I felt recently like you're almost like a younger male version of myself. You're so generous. I'm praising myself, but you're so generous. You're so open. You're a good Australian template there. You know, you've got that grounded earth energy, and yet you're such a seeker and, moving on that ascension and enlightened path. So it's been really nice connecting with you in these last few months, brother. So I was just saying to these guys, they're really my new earth, my favorite new earth men. I just think they're wonderful, and everyone can learn so much from them. Let's first of all explore the consciousness side of what's required in order to step into this new earth human template. And we're really needing to expand our whole awareness that there's ways of living that perhaps we haven't opened to as yet. And this includes things like our telepathic nature. Many people are reporting to me that they are finding that their intuitive telepathic communication with each other has gone exponential. There's something really going on at this time as this dark matrix starts to dismantle itself, and we come into this era of, I guess, re-invoking maybe things that we've done before, whether we class that as our galactic self, our star being self, where we didn't even really need to talk. We can actually just communicate in these silent, unseen realms. So, Souvereign, are you experiencing anything like that at the moment? What's happening in your world where you're just really shattering the ways that have been, and what you're noticing as you move and ascend up into this new earth human template?
Well, I would love to say that it's a really sexy and attractive and beautiful journey of heroic, masculine, emancipated movements. And sorry to break the news. It's actually quite a sad, sobbing story from time to time, where little Souvereign is lying on the bed thinking to himself, what the is all going on? Who am I? Where am I? What I have learned is to be with it, just to lean in. All right, so probably I'm dying. Okay, I mean, like on a other layer of self, another layer of who I thought I was, another layer of identity, and It is indeed a heroic journey, and there are a lot of demons and villains and all of that sort of stuff that is part and parcel of becoming more free, because it is the process of really letting go of the things that aren't actually true. And quite frankly, there is a tremendous amount of stuff that actually isn't true. And so I've recently learned to, in my relationship with my beautiful beloved Colleen, to really just finish a whole bunch of my sentences with, I just made all of that up. And that's a really great way to kind of own back what I just professed as truth, because so many times have I found myself professing myself in whatever I share out as if it being the be and end all of all truth to one degree or the other. And the truth is that I don't know. And in that not knowing lies a tremendous value of self-sovereignty and safety beyond the confines of all the language that I could be putting out around what it all looks like and what it all feels like. I am very fortunate and I feel very gifted that I have Syntropy as my teaching ground. So I have a sense of being able to measure everything in nature. And that seems to really help me a lot in terms of giving me a ground to operate from and a place to relate to life and the external world, but therefore my internal world as well, in a way that allows me to really connect what is in the archetypal reality playing out in all my feelings and emotions, and I can feel through that and be with that instead of suppressing it, which is, that's the landscape I come from. Western world cult programming 101. Just suppress it. Just deny those feelings. I am able to kind of lean in with them and just be curious and be open. And I wish there was for me a faster way, that if I was just willing to be curious, that then within 5 minutes I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm curious. So now I know what's going on because I was curious. And unfortunately, the human experience for me doesn't seem to be showing up that way. And so it takes me a day or two. And I've recently actually checked in with friends that are really good stargazers to check in and say, what the is going on? What is going on with the energies? I'm lost at the moment. And by allowing me to die in that way, because for me, agency is a big thing. For me to allow myself to kind of surrender my own self and be like, you know what, fuck it, I don't know. Give it to me. I get insights into my being and the collective journey from friends that are very close. They're advanced masters in their field that I would normally not ask for. And there's something really humbling that I find in that path that requires me to kind of no longer know. And that in doing that, I surrender and I relinquish my own sovereignty, and I lean into my friends, my brothers and my sisters that come up for me, and I tap with that into the collective wisdom. And I feel that there's something really beautiful in that. In a sense, it is our interrelatedness that in which the answers to this great transition lie. And I only hold a piece of the puzzle. And I should just be a spokesperson for my piece. And when I'm out of bounds or I should just be tapping in with my brothers and sisters that have their gift in that field. And that feels really, really, really nice.
That's beautiful, Sovereign. And I love how you say that you're curious, because it really takes judgment out of what we're experiencing. And I guess, and I'm going to speak in a very general sense, but I guess for men, the conditioning hasn't been to even be curious. You haven't even been given permission to even be curious. Normally, it's just like, oh, there's an emotion that doesn't feel good. let's shut that down by distracting ourselves, whether we have too many beers or whether we work too hard. As I say, you know, that spectrum where the masculine can easily go toxic masculine, as women with their own inner masculine can easily go into toxic masculine. Many women in today's day and age use the term hustle in business. Now, we know that hustle really is likened to being a prostitute. Why are we hustling? Why are we choosing to do that to ourselves? Because we've bought into toxic masculinity, that we need to hustle in order to get ahead in our business life, rather than magnetize, rather than just simply choose what it is we would like to experience and then go inward, maybe have a sleep on the couch, feel the pleasure of being, and use that energy to magnetize to us what we need. So we see this interplay always between feminine and masculine that's occurring within ourselves. But as for me as a woman and for you as a man, we can adopt both. You don't have to go excess masculine. I don't have to go excess feminine. So I really love that choice of word curious, because for any men listening to this who haven't allowed themselves just to feel all that's going on within them, why not start with being curious? Therefore, it's an adventure. It's playtime. It may not always feel good. As you say, you can be crying on the couch, you know, like we can be gnashing our teeth and wailing and stomping on the floor. That's all part of this upgrade, because really to anchor in that new earth template, because it comes from those unseen realms of mystery and imagination before it comes into the matter, before it comes into the seen realm of the third dimension. So, of course, in order for that to happen, we've got to clear, first of all, what's going on within us that's not in alignment with our pleasure and with our bliss and with our joy, knowing that it's all possible, because as I always say, we are the creator experiencing our own creation. So it's up to us to imagine in the most profound way. There are no limitations. So for you, Shay, also as a beautiful, divine, sacred masculine, what's the journey been like for you? Let's just say in the last 18 or so months, you know, as we've gone through the whole world being shut down, and what that means for us all. How are you experiencing this? And tell us a little bit more about Earth Hero and why you've got that off the ground, and what that offering is.
Thank you so much, first, Carrie, for that beautiful introduction. I would second what Souvereign has expressed, and that my journey has not been that pretty as well. There's been many bumps and turns and twists and ups and downs. And, you know, what I've found in kind of comprehending the balance of life and the sacredness of finding that inner navigational system from going too far extreme on one end versus not going the other direction, finding that kind of balance in the polarities and dualities of life is having, for me, I've had to go to the depth of those extremes. And as a young adult coming of age, I, you know, somewhat had to learn the hard way. And I was certainly on one end of the spectrum, lost in the world and really deeply trying to discover and seeking and looking for the answers, because I knew nothing. And that's not to say that I know everything now. I still know nothing. And I'm still searching and exploring and trying to discover and understand and reintegrate those parts of myself to serve the world. Because what I realized from the different perspective of where I was at to where I am going is I was very much all about the me, and, you know, this is my journey and this is my story and this is what I've done and this is how I am. But what I recognize is that the new earth that we're, you know, conversing around has to do with the we, has to do with us, has to do with collaboration and co-creation. And how would we do it together? Because it's no longer an individual journey all about me and what I can do and how good I am and what I have to offer and all of these things, recognizing that on an individual level, I have many gifts and many talents and lots to offer to the world, yet I can't do this alone. Even in the healing work, even in the deeper unraveling and revealing, it takes, you know, an observer. And oftentimes we can be that observer through our own deeper sense of awareness. And that's what I would suggest is a key element in the question you asked initially, is that awareness is a huge element to understanding, how to navigate this new dimensional realm of the 5D and the age of Aquarius, and understanding, having awareness of our environment, as you spoke to, understanding where our food comes from, understanding how the stars can help us in navigating, moving forward, and the emotion that it brings up, having awareness of what's going on inside, if there's anything unresolved or emotional triggers and charges that are coming up, and exploring with that curiosity on a deeper level, where is that within me? What is the root cause of this, and how do I overcome this? How can I share this openly so that I'm not projecting onto others, but I'm taking ownership and responsibility? And I find that with this kind of new earth human, an important piece that in this conversation that I feel to ground, and for me, grounding has to do with being aware of myself, my body, and my physical being aware of my environment. And that's why I found, those practices of permaculture and gardening and syntropy are great, because it grounds me into the earth, and I get to have this real profound physical connection to the food that I'm eating, to the food I'm harvesting, and the tree I'm pruning, and the sun, and how much energy that it brings to the life on earth, including myself. You can see I'm a bit sun-kissed at the moment, because I've spent a lot of time grounding in with the sun, just allowing the sun rays to infiltrate my body. And so the grounding piece of where we're at, this new reality, is this new 5-dimensional human new earth experience, is not something in the future. And this is a really key point that I want to emphasize on and place huge significance on, because I've had a lot of conversations with many different people about this new paradigm of life that we're experiencing. And something that I want to bring in is that the new earth is here. We are the new earth. This physical embodiment, this grounded being, is in the new paradigm. And by just doing what we're doing, practicing what we're practicing, doing the work, opening up our hearts, expanding, connecting with community, going to these depths of understanding the internal systems of the human body, and sharing those gifts with the world, as much as it is about the stars and the planets and the universal cosmic energy, as it is much about our biological, physical microcosm of our human experience. And so that's what I feel is based upon my astrological calendar as well, is that part of my purpose is to recognize that each of us, myself included, and you, every single one of you is watching this right now, is that we are contributing to this new culture, this new earth, this new paradigm, this experience. And the question that I would like to unravel with those who are watching, and feel free to write in the comments what you feel resonates with you, but I'm curious as to how you are contributing to the new earth experience that we find ourselves in. And I feel that what's so significant about these conversations that you so gracefully open up, Carrie, is that we can, begin to articulate our experience of life with words, and then with our awareness and our observation, in real time, watch it unfold in front of us. And it's something that Souvereign has taught me, and it sticks in my mind, this quote that he shares often, that words govern our consciousness. And that's the key thing here. I just want to repeat that: words govern our consciousness. And this is what Souvereign shared with me, and I'm really exciting to comprehend that this notion through how important what we speak and what we think and what we feel is in grounding in this new earth experience, this new humanity that we're finding ourselves in. And so I just love these conversations, and thanks for asking the questions.
Oh, that was that was epic. Yeah, and we really do have the magic wand. We have the power of abracadabra. We actually have the power of the spoken word creating our reality. And I feel that's what we're moving into, is that remembering process of just how powerful each of us are. We have this very heightened technology as human beings. Not only technology in its skill set and creation set, but also in the fact that we, unlike many other entities in the galaxy, have this powerful heart center. And this is where it can be both a blessing and also can seem at times that it's a curse. Now, it's not really a curse. It's an illusion that it's a curse. But this is where we get this flooding of emotion, where we feel overwhelmed and it's all too hard. And why am I being punished? Why is God doing this to me? Because I feel everything and I'm in grief so much of the time. And I want these feelings to go away. How can I distract myself from these feelings? Just sort of circling back to what Sovereign was discussing. Why can't we just remain in that curious space? You know, why do we have to constantly distract ourselves? Because this gift that we have of emotion, this gift that we have of a powerful heart center, is the pathway into the ascended realms. I know from the Tibetan Buddhist teachings that it is so rare, in fact, to be given the gift of human life that we just overlook it. We overlook it. We're not here being, wow, how amazing am I? Why don't we look in the mirror every day and look into our own eyes and go, you're incredible. You're a powerful being. You have got all the tools and all the skills to go on this ascension pathway. If we could just make peace with self, if we could just, so sorry, I'm not sure. I've got that on silent. Not sure why that's chiming. If we could just make peace with self, and if we could just be in awe of self, then the whole world really does become our oyster. We become the actual pearl. We see ourselves in that pearlescent, luminescent template, and we just keep rising. And I guess this is where we've been. I often say this, where we've been cabaled. You know, we've bought into the we've bought into the cabal and the carrots that they've dangled, that you're not enough, you're the small I, that they can activate that part of us that can be programmed. We might call it the reptilian brain. They can activate that part of us that wants to control outcomes, that's always living in a state of fear, that, you know, it's concerned that there's always this doom waiting for us. So if you can figure things out ahead of time, then we can negate what's going to come at us. How can we blast all that away? How can we step up into that new earth human template? And so, yeah, it's a really exciting discussion. So let's go back, Sovereign, to you, and let's talk a little bit more about what you guys are doing with Earth Heroes TV, and what the deep need in both of you, or just from your perspective, Sovereign, was to educate via the content that you're putting out there in this online world.
Yeah, beautiful. For me, it's just such an honor to be able to flank Shay in being the driving force and the primary factor of Earth Heroes TV existing, and just really seeing the underlying temporal field that I've been in conscious media for over 15 years, and I've done a lot of pro deo work, which means for God, for life, for transformation, and understand that field really, really well. And it is a real art to bring together the full spectrum reality of what we are all navigating. That it's not just yoga, and it's not just freedom fighting information and self-sovereignty awareness, and it's not just permaculture, and it's not just meditation. It is everything combined. And for me, how I relate to Earth Heroes TV is that it's a platform for people to find themselves, where all of you is welcome, and you can find and grow in ways that are just beautiful stepping stones and places to lean into, because we are social creatures, and we do require each other to kind of take off the shells that we are carrying, or give us insight and into aspects of ways of perceiving reality, life, and how we can activate and deploy ourselves in this world. We require each other for that. And to see a platform that isn't trying to fit in one particular niche, for me, was just such a beautiful opportunity to lean my strengths and my talents and my gifts into that. And for me, I see that it is laying a common ground ecosystem for transformation on an individual and personal level, and it doesn't have this kind of Americanized, and I'm, don't fold it, it's performing a function with purpose, but there isn't this over marketing kind of, and you could say, well, that's because it's still grassroots and it's still very organic. Well, yes and nay, because what I feel that we're bringing through with everybody that we're bringing into Earth Heroes TV, and the future that is still ahead of us with the next stage of evolution and the next succession that can come about through the support of people that are seeing the value, recognizing the relevancy of platforms like these existing. It allows us then to plan for more growth and more expansion to reach more people, because that is ultimately where this game is at. And it's what do we put in here that translates into a different perception of the reality around us. And for that, we require visionaries, we require way showers, we require those that have developed the articulate ability to translate language and their consciousness into a form that isn't cabal language, that isn't cult programmed, fear, lack, and scarcity based syntax. And so, to answer your question that you asked just before we got into this piece around Earth Heroes, what for me personally I see, and that's not me beating my own drum, but what I know as a definite is that we were never taught anything in class, in school, in life, in our communities, in our churches, in our yoga studios, even in permaculture. We weren't taught anything about syntropy. Nada, zilt. We have been operating, however, as a human collective species in the Western mind on entropy, scarcity, lack-based mentalities that require us to engage in the need to be in control, the need to overrule and power, to securitize out of fear of there not being enough. And so that is the format that our Western mindset has been promulgated and self-seeding itself into, and that's the model of the economy. If you create scarcity, you can lift the price up. It's Rockefeller technology dating back 200 years. So there's nothing new to that. What is new is the conversation around syntropy, because in that lie all the answers that we were never shown, taught, or raised with, and we weren't forelived. My parents didn't live with the kind of natural knowing that there always is enough and everything is just going to flourish and blossom. No, they were going through tremendous hardship. And my dad still had it within himself to know that everything always works out. And that's a key cornerstone that I can stand on now. But I imagine what would it look like for the current young generation to be shown by the grown-ups that are supposed to raise them, to be shown that abundance is the metric of life, that enough and collaboration and assisting and supporting each other and raising each other is our strength point, as opposed to the game of competition, which is what we're all been taught. And so competition is the game of entropy. Collaboration is the game of syntropy, which is the only game that really exists. Anything that isn't in that field is basically resisting life out of fear of death. And so there's a whole bunch of programs in here that are all entropic programs. And what I love about Earth Heroes TV is that it is really embraced that syntropic way of relating to life. And I've been pioneering syntropic agroforestry since it was brought to Australia. When I saw it, like my whole being lit up. And it's just so exciting to be able to keep speaking to that, keep bringing it in, because that is an aspect of our human ecology, our consciousness through our language, that we can share with each other and celebrate in a joyous manner everything that we know around, because it just lifts the weight and it lifts the burdens slowly but surely of our own minds. To me, having a place to bring that in, um, that is profound, because there are no other platforms that I know of except for Zach Bush and the syntropic agroforestry people themselves, Agenda Gutsch and Agenda Agroforestal, that are operating more out of Southern America. There isn't an implementation platform that relates
Mhm.
around what we're all feeling a dire need for in this time.
Yeah, beautiful. I'll pass it over to Shay because I'd love your insights on this, Shay, because I find that a lot of the alternative media, whilst their intention is to help us to transcend the dark matrix, they're often so negative in their approach because they're also feeding that same narrative of doom and gloom and look what's wrong in the world. So really they've become almost the mainstream media because they're keeping us in a fear loop. Now I understand that's not their intention. Their intention is to help. So what are the subtle differences between those people, like, I mean, of course, I'm very biased for Earth Heroes TV, but what Earth Heroes TV is doing with raising the consciousness, speaking to what's going on in the world, but not getting drawn into the downward spiral of everything's negative. So can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me to share. And I just want to acknowledge Sovereign's, beautiful articulation of syntropy and the movement, essentially, because this is, again, beyond one singular platform, or one video or one person. This is a collaborative, and that's what syntropy is all about. It's acknowledging, and as I spoke to earlier around, the extremes, and sometimes we can get caught into the extremes of fear, and then we can swing back to the full extreme of letting go into love. And I would actually like to invite all the listeners right now, if you've got a pen and piece of paper, just grab it and put it right in front of you and draw a line down the middle. It's a simple practice, because I have found myself on that pendulum swing and being super afraid and full of shame and embarrassment and guilt on an internal level, and then looking out into the world and realizing, oh my God, things are really pretty stuffed up right now. And then, swinging onto the other end of the spectrum at the same time. And so finding that middle point, that 0 point, that plane of inertia, that balance of understanding, that we have the potential to implement these solutions if we choose, and learning from the darkness on that side of the spectrum. So down the line, on one side you can write entropy, on the other side you can write syntropy, on one side you can write darkness, and on the other side you can write light. These are just archetypes of exploring and understanding that we have this potential to walk the line in the middle, or swing from side to side. And part of the inspiration to open up this conversation and start this platform was mostly to focus more towards a solution, because that was something I acknowledged in the world I found myself in, that things are pretty destructive and on the entropic side. And I wanted to explore what are the possibilities for us to tap into, so that we can create this new earth experience, and we can be a part of the solution for our world. And so it led me on a journey to make a film, which we released on the platform called the Regeneration, which Souvereign is also a part of, based on a catalytic trip going over to Vanuatu, where I got to experience at firsthand the polarities of life, going from this westernized, cultured kind of world where everything seems to be entropic. It's full of cement. We're pumping pollution into the air. It's in our water. The food we eat is very, poisonous, and a lot of the times processed and actually not real food. As opposed to the other end of the spectrum, on this side of experience of being in Vanuatu, and it was like these people were living on the land. They're using what's available. They're making use of their available resources, growing their own food, living in community. And it was a great experience for me to recognize that we have seemingly gone quite extremely off track in this Western world, and that there's a lot of deep conditioning and programming that has occurred to accept that as normal. And even in my own experience of growing up in this world and going to that dark night of my own soul, realizing that I was super egoic and you know, on this individualistic train where it was all about me and consuming and competing, and then having to swing it in the other end of the spectrum to recognize the value and seeing the collective syntropic. And when we just look at the words of syntropy, it's synergy, it's symbiosis, it's syntropic, you know, it's about us coming into symmetrical kind of cohesion, understanding that together life doesn't function on its own. It takes, you know, collaborative effort when we understand that all of life is interconnected and integrated into the collective ecosystem of the whole. And that's been a huge journey, is recognizing that I had been so conditioned from my own experience to see this illusion of separation, that I am me and that they is them, and that we are different and we're separate, to coming to this point to recognize the beyond the layers and the patterns and the deeper depths of my own mind, heart, and deeper soul, is that ultimately what science now confirms through quantum physics is that there is actually no quantity. When we understand the layers of nature, it's all a vibration and frequency, and so that it's a wave and it's a pattern and it's a vibration. And so understanding my life and how I relate to nature through that syntropic lens of recognizing that it is all interconnected helped me to really reflect on and ask those questions. How do I want to treat, you know, the world that I find myself in? How do I want to treat myself? What feelings do I want to feel? And that has led me to ultimately do the work, because I've had to go deeper in myself and realize all of these old patterns that I had been, you know, programmed with in that entropic world, and realize, wow, there's a lot to fix in this space, and slowly like unravel it and, you know, recreate it. So the idea of the platform was to ultimately share in a communal space the inspiration and the motivation, the empowerment, the education and information that's relevant to move forward as a collective and doing this together. And so you'll recognize that it's not about any one individual, it's not about this practice or that practice, but there are many modalities for healing. There are many wise sages who are walking amongst us. You know, there are many amazing, inspiring people. And oftentimes what inspires me the most is the community members who are just part of the platform. You know, they're not necessarily sharing anything, but they're showing up every week in these community conversations and just sharing their gifts in that beautiful, safe environment. And so the platform has exponentially grown beyond my imagination, based on the principles of, you know, how powerful we are as a collective. And that's something that I've really come to understand, is that the most powerful technology that we have today is the human being, especially when we come together. You know, it's like one human being is super powerful, two human beings is like exponentially powerful, and then it grows from there. And it's like suddenly, if we're speaking into the field of where we're at and what our perspective and lens that we see, then suddenly we realize that when we do that in circle, there's so many people that have so many different gifts, and that I can just, you know, serve my little purpose and my function in the greater cosmic wheel of life that we find ourselves in. And that just by fulfilling my small journey, my part in that larger cog of the wheel, I'm serving the greater collective whole. And I can find meaning in that in my life. I found meaning because I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, something that is helping life, that is helping people, that is helping us move, helping the earth. And it just feels on a deeper level just so fulfilling. It's like, wow, I've been searching for these feelings of meaning and fulfillment for so long in external measures, by taking and consuming and competing. And now it's like, wow, I can find that within myself when I get to contribute in a communal setting and feel valued and appreciated and acknowledged. And it just transcends you know, all of those limiting beliefs that were there and holding me back and blocking me. And it's just, it opens up this new river of just like, it's like just beauty and oftentimes emotion. I've been crying a lot recently, and I've recognized, wow, I had stifled a lot of emotions as a youngling, and now that I'm opening up to, you know, this new transcendent way of being, it's like, wow, I'm full of emotion and so much tears of joy and love and laughter. And yeah, it's just great to be on this journey. And I just appreciate you guys watching right now, and both of you guys for sharing, because I realize I know very little and I have so much to learn, which is so exciting, but also scary at the same time, because it's like living life on the edge of a forest, or the edge of society, or the edge of, you know, my comfort zone. That's where the magic has happened. That's where the mystery is revealed, and just trusting and having deep sense of faith that things are going to unfold in divine timing and just unfold naturally and organically, and if I continue to come from that place of service and love, that it's going to just be beautiful and magical. So that's just kind of where I'm at and exploring, and yeah, it just feels good.
Just divine. Just, this is why you guys are my favorites, my favorite New Earth humans. I mean, for men to be able to speak in the way that you both do, I know for anyone listening, it's just, I can feel that resonance in my heart. It's so uplifting, and it gives permission. Maybe we need more so for the men than the women. The women can anchor into, oh, look at this beautiful comment come in. Yeah. Men perhaps need that permission a little bit more than the women, and to know that means being a real man. A real man will feel everything. A real man, a warrior, will feel everything, and the feelings are the impetus for the change and for the transformation. And there is no shame whatsoever in the gushing of the heart and the tears and everything that goes along with that journey. I also want to echo what you said about the community, because I know that many people will look to all of us three and many other truthers, activists, New Earth leaders, healers, psychics at this time. But we've moved out of the age of Pisces, which really was signified by the man on top of the perch. And it's like the pyramid really of the cabal. We all look up, and we're the minions at the bottom. And in fact, we've moved into the age of Aquarius, which is really like that 60s revolution, where we're all holding hands together with flowers in our hand, and we move together as one through this ascension pathway. And so everyone in the community has something to offer. Everyone is the New Earth human. Everyone is the New Earth leader. We are doing this together. We are sharing our unique gifts with each other. And like I said to you before, Shay, I look at you and I see you as a version of myself. I look at Souvereign and I see him as a version of myself, because the truth is, from the highest perspective, we are all each other. And I can truly be in love with all aspects of myself in the 3D holographic field if I choose to be. There are many characters in the 3D that really annoy me. They really trigger me, and they invite me to just look at myself and say, Carrie, are you unconditionally loving at this point in time? No, I'm not. And there's no shame in that, by the way. There's no shame in me not being loving. By, you know, where I live right now, it's a beautiful island paradise, but I'm exposed. Souvereign used to live here, so he knows. I'm exposed to so many people walking past, being loud, gawking in on my little sanctuary, and I can view the thoughts in my head, you know, and it's often the F-bomb going, just F off. And then I'm like, hang on a second, Carrie, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just in their flow, enjoying nature, enjoying the ocean. They're excited about life, because you're currently in a space where you're at home and you're working and you want to be private, or, you know, you're going through a dimensional upgrade. You don't want any of that interference. Are they doing anything wrong? Of course they're not. And these are the ways, these are the triggers that we all have to go through. Why are these people annoying me? Why is the way someone even maybe looked at me triggering me? What is that about? So they are also the angels in our life that create this great awakening, create this opportunity to look a bit deeper and love the aspects of ourselves that are crass, that are loud, that are unaware, that are obnoxious, that are entitled, that are narcissistic, that are still, going back to what you said, Shay, that are still in competition mode, that are still in dog eat dog mode, that are still in I've got to get ahead mode, because they're all aspects of self that can be integrated and upgraded. That doesn't mean we don't speak up for ourselves. And in fact, for me personally, and I believe this is something that many women or many people with excess divine feminine energy or excess feminine energy need to hear, is that it's okay to open your throat chakra and speak your truth. For me in 2020, the greatest upgrade that I had, because of what I could see with the cabal and the absolute horrors of what they were doing, I realized that if I don't speak now, then I am permissioning at a greater degree what they are doing. I am allowing it to happen. So opening up the throat chakra, speaking your truth, even if your voice shakes, even if you don't get it right in the moment, you'll be given another opportunity and another opportunity and another opportunity to find the loving but perhaps confrontational way through. There's nothing wrong with confrontation, but yes, we have to add love to that frequency if we're going to tell someone the truth about what's going on. So I just love this conversation so much. And let's come back to you, Sovereign. We're starting to get to the end of time, so let's finish off now with some practical tools and rituals that people can do. Shay, you spoke about your sun-kissed, I love that word, getting out in the sun, getting your feet in the soil. We're remineralizing through our connection to the telluric realms. Let's talk about what you guys do. Also, you have so many different skills, but what you do in terms of permaculture and what could it look like for people going into a New Earth community, say, Sovereign? And I know you'll be able to talk about the practical things, but also could you talk about the dynamics of living with other people and what that's going to bring up to the surface, and how we can not idealize it, not romanticize it, but really get practical about what that actually means.
So good. Yeah, that's where the juice really is. It doesn't necessarily sound attractive or as a good sales pitch, but that's when all your unresolved shit comes to the surface. And that's just how it works. Either co-living or co-working allows us to create, be in an ecology where what doesn't get brought up by just random passerbyers, all of a sudden, whatever is still there can be shown a little light on. And people call those triggers. People call it whatever they want to call that. Some people call it directly trauma. I know that there's parts of self that all want to be brought home, because disassociation is really real in our human journey. We disassociate from ourselves, our whole self, when we are going through emotionally big experiences that we can't properly process, because we were told, what are you crying for? I'll give you something to cry about. Well, what is a child age is supposed to do other than to pot that feeling up and try and figure out how to deal with that later. It doesn't go away. And so what hasn't gone away on its own accord, which is pretty much everything that hasn't been resolved properly, will be able to have an opportunity to come to the surface when we start living together. We see that in our own individual primary constellations or intimate relationships. And it's just how life functions. And if we are able to envision these communities to be a safe space where our capacity to relate with each other around what's coming up for and within ourselves, but for each other, when we're willing and aware that is actually what's really relevant, to make ourselves available to receive so that the other can express their feelings for the purpose of self-exploration. Most humans don't express their feelings for the purpose of self-exploration. They express their feelings in a projective way or in a contractive way to make the other person somehow feel or buy into whatever the story is that we're trying to translate. And so I see beautiful opportunities with the right intentions and with the right comprehension of where we come from, beautiful opportunities for growth, expansion, love, celebration, real, raw, and relevant relating in the most vulnerable, but also the most uplifting and transformative ways. And in the past, we've done that predominantly by going through a weekend retreat or going to a something, whatever, we felt attracted to. What I have learned from my own deep diving into this is that it is through the conscious co-living that we actually make it a life way, a way of living to show up for feeling-based relating, to prioritize how we navigate in a natural frequency with each other. And for me, that study and that orientation that I bring into the conversation for that has everything to do with the next generations and the current generation, the children, so that the transgenerational hand down of trauma in our generation, in our lifetime, can actually stop, that we can arrest our own stories and narratives and actually learn that all that putting it onto somebody else, it's okay for as long as you then are willing to bring it back and go within to figure out, because the real question is, do you want to do it like that? And the question with that, do you want to keep doing it like that? And so conscious co-living in these communities is a beautiful opportunity to uplift each other, to celebrate each other's strengths, and to honor and respect each other's so-called weaknesses. And for a lot of us, our weaknesses is that we are very afraid to show up real vulnerably, because the little parts of self, the little children that haven't had for the last 20 or 30 years the space or the time to speak their little story, they're not all of a sudden going to be overjoyed and be like, oh, wow, we're in community. Now I can come out and I can share all my raw vulnerability of what happened when we have been programmed and conditioned through so much of the artificial world around us that has created so many coping strategies and so many survival strategies that are all beautiful. But the real question is, do we want to keep doing it like that? And so I see that there is a huge field of transformation that we are together able to step into. And I see us holding hands in that journey, and I see us wearing flowers in our hair. I see us doing all the beautiful, beautiful stuff that is part of really bringing out that original innocence, that original love frequency. And to me, that is something that brings joy to my heart when I see those images and when I then spellcast that out myself.
Beautiful. And of course, Sovereign, so many people from the 60s that started that movement really did become cabaled again. They believed in the New Earth communities. They believed in free love. They believed in all the things that the hippies were doing, moving into plant-based diets, all of these things. And then somehow that development got arrested, and they went, oh, actually, no, I'll be the one who's the CEO of the corporation, and I'll be sucked back into competition mode. We really saw that happen. And often the leaders now in that more cabal template are the people that perhaps went too far in the 60s movement and shocked themselves. So it's almost like a seesaw effect until we find where the middle is, and we go through. And I believe that's what this vertical ascension pathway that's been made available to us now, Mother Earth herself is upgrading into a fifth dimensional consciousness as she moves into this photon band. We as her inhabitants make that choice whether we're going to go with her into that upgrade of frequency, or perhaps we'll choose another galactic cycle in 3D. And really, there's no right or wrong when we look at it from a consciousness perspective, because we're simply just at some point on the continuum of consciousness, and they're all necessary universal life lessons depending on what we need to learn. But I guess, if I can ask you again, what are your insights into that? Why would those 60s peace, love, and mung bean, hippie movement people then suddenly swing? I think you said it before, Shay, you swing the pendulum, we swing it back in the other direction. How can we be aware of that need then maybe to run back to that competitive way of being? How can we hold ground even when there's problems, even when we're in the New Earth communities and then someone's really annoying us? You spoke about vulnerability. Can you go a little bit deeper? What can we do at those specific times to not run back in the other direction when things don't quite work out in our New Earth communities like we thought they would?
Yeah. Well, I think that would be a whole hour worth, because that's the real essence of our human ecology. And without syntropy, which is the study of nature, we do not get to explore what human nature fully is. Because if we don't use nature as the template and the strategies of life that life operates on, because we are life, it's very challenging for us to access what has been so veiled from us, which is what is natural, which is what human nature really consists of, is that we are a human family of love, but not from the new cage movement. When you talk about people being cabaled, they just created their own new cage. And that was the New Age movement. And so that has entrapped people. And that is purely because this is a big topic. And syntropy is really relevant in there, in that component. But equally relevant in the study of human nature is the study of self-sovereignty, because that is what human nature is, and that is the sovereignty of our children. And so the way that we seem to be traditionally able to express ourselves to children, we would never do to our friends. What's wrong in this picture if we're all equal? And love in that sense, but really the love for self, is a prerequisite for this kind of triune to really function: syntropy, self-sovereignty, self-love. And what I elicited from my journeying with the indigenous world in a very deep and real manner, in a place called Aotearoa, New Zealand, I got a glimpse, and I got insight. I got into my heart. I got into the deficit, and I got into the de-appreciated landscape of the internal world. I fell out of the Western mind into the essence of what it feels in an experienced way to be in the indigenous heart space of living. And it was, however you want to call it, it was a supreme contrast. It was the most confrontational experience that I've ever had in my life. And I became entirely silent. I wrapped up my conscious media organization that I had run with for 5 years. And what I learned that I needed to somehow figure out is how to live this consciousness, how to come to embody it, because otherwise it is just a continuation of the misuse and the overuse of the intelligence if it doesn't become a life way. And so the conversation is really about, do people feel willing, and are they willing to express their willful commitment to re-enabling their human nature? And I can't do that for them. I can be a way shower. I can share how I have done that for myself and continue to show up for that. But more so, I don't want to be the teacher. I don't want to be the way shower. I don't want to be the guru. I just want to live it. And that's where the Brave New Life community is come in, is that I just want to do this with other human beings. Because if we keep talking about it and not actually doing it, we keep putting the goalpost somewhere in the future. And just as Shay said, the new earth is here right now. And so I would like to invite us three to have another conversation and really unpack feeling-based relating inside our human ecology of these new Earth sanctuary communities, and
Yeah.
how simple it is, and yet what there is to really be aware of when things go a little bit wobbly, when a bit of that
Mm.
old residue comes to the surface, performing a function with purpose.
Yeah. And I'd really love to dive into the new age, new cage, fake woke concepts as well. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about opening the throat chakra up, because for me, as a long-time yoga teacher and healer, I definitely have mixed in circles where we put up and we shut up. And we might have lost Shay. He did say his battery was running out. Oh, you're back, Shay. And so that put up and shut up and that fake love and light and don't speak up for yourself and always, see the higher perspective really does not work. It does not work. It's suppression, and it often means that you're not the voice for the innocent who are being persecuted. So, yeah, there's a lot there with that new age movement that needs to be delved into. And of course, we're seeing so many false gurus anyway. There's so many that are coming out and they're promoting, having the V, and it's like, come on, this is not sovereignty. This is misusing your position of influence. It's a very alarming to most people. There's a cringing factor that goes on for most of us who perhaps have looked to these so-called gurus for some time. Again, for me, being a yogi for so long, it's almost we're so locked into that mentality that we've needed a guru in order to ascend. Well, absolutely, we do not. So yeah, I would definitely love to have that conversation and go deeper into what that's about. It's very unique, Sovereign, actually, to hear someone say that they don't want to be a guru, they don't want to be a teacher. It's something that I especially adore about you, because you truly are, in a way, okay being nothing, and then in being nothing, you're everything, you're all of it. You somehow hold the balance of that space so very well without having that ego. Of course, we've all got the ego, but maybe the difference with you is you do the inner work and you know how to check your ego. So we've lost Shay. So Shay, you did let me know that your computer was dying. So thank you so much to Shay for being part of this conversation. And back to you then, Sovereign, just for final words, if you want to maybe talk about the ego and what you do in order to, and that'll be another hour conversation, I know, but just to wrap us up with our theme of New Earth Human, and how we can get on top of that mischievous, insidious ego that wants to be the best and wants to lead the way for everyone.
Yeah. I think the foundational premise really for me is understanding that everything in life is performing a function with purpose, which is the notion of be curious, get yourself out of judgment, because whatever is happening is performing a function with purpose. If we can see, and if we just can sit, we can look at the blades of grass and the trees and the flowers and the clouds drifting by, and we see whatever is happening, whether it's in the oceans, whether it's on the mountains, whether it's in the sky, that there's life happening. And that all of life is performing a function with purpose, that it's all contributing something. Then we can start exploring what that something is. It's contributing more life, more biodiversity. So we kind of start feeling into what nature is doing, and we get curious. We get out of our judgment. We allow ourselves to open up to something that gets to inform us. And this has a lot to do with the biophilic model that I share around, which is not something that I came up with, but it's an ancient indigenous model more than anything, but it's rendered down into a 2D form so that our Western mind can be like, oh yeah, if we do it like that, if we put nature on the top of our informing agency, and we let the ecosystem and nature inform our philosophy. So our philosophy is based on nature, and our economy is based on nature, but it's also in service of nature, but it's reciprocal. then we are taking a different approach to where we are now, where the economy is obviously at the top. That is driving technology. It is driving our social fabric. It is driving how we operate, what we do, how we even philosophize about life. It's all driven through artificial capital that doesn't even really exist. And so for me, the foundational premise is really in questioning whenever something happens in our world, in our own individual experience, having a question there that is of an awareness that says, this is performing a function with purpose. And then to question the function. Because to go and continue the shame and blame game towards the ego really doesn't do any good. Because the ego, all that it really is repressed, compressed, suppressed, hurt parts of self that had to fight for itself, that had to come up with a survival strategy way before it was natural to having to do so. And so the ego is in a way there to serve us and be a really beautiful ally in our world. It's just that it's sitting in the driver's seat. And we don't even know that it's sitting in the driver's seat because we don't know that we're even a vehicle we're a bus with 14 different people in it. And the 14 different people are all me. And so we have been trained to take the lead or to be a leader or to, as you say, women are having this fantasy going on that they need to hustle in order to get, wow, you want to talk about a 3D program that they're stuck in. That is a belief system that they've been programmed with that is all trauma-based. It's all fear, lack, and scarcity-based. And that drives, of course, then ego to keep itself safe, to protect itself. And it will come up with all sorts of what I call fruity land belief systems that are, none of them are true. They're self-fulfilling prophecies. There are ideals about and rules about right, wrong, good, bad. And that's the construct of the ego mind, to kind of stay safe in a world that isn't feeling to be a safe and nurturing and loving and free place to operate in. And that ego is so hungry to be loved. It is so hungry to be met for who it really is. And that's what I discovered, is that whenever my ego grabs the wheel and I see this unnatural frequency emerging within me, it may take me a little while, but I have measured all my behavior against what is natural. It allows me to feel into me grabbing this wheel, me believing what I'm believing, just what I said earlier. It's like at the end of whatever I state as truth, I'll say, I just made all of that up. So that when I know that I'm professing stuff that I'm not embodying, but that I'm just fantasizing about, I will actually own that I just made it up, so that I don't have to make myself believe that what I believe is true, because the truth is I don't actually really know. Now, there's huge humility in that, but in that I get to relate with the aspect of myself that really wanted to be found. And there's great depths to what I'm saying here, because the internal landscape of the human psychobiological world, our emotional landscape, is highly undervalued and is highly misunderstood in our Western world. And even the best of psychological frameworks aren't actually really making this available as a way of humans relating with each other. No, we need specialists to go and help us deal with our trauma. So we have outsourced that, and that's not part of our human ecology. Well, if we would require specialists for the rest of our lives to put ourselves back together because we were born into a broken world, well, I can pretty much say we're really fucked. Because there's not going to be enough specialists, and we're not going to make enough money to hire all the specialists to put ourselves back together. This needs to happen inside our human ecology, that is co-living and co-navigating life together. And in that, we then require a certain set of comprehensions that are based on human nature, that will allow us to see that when our ego is proactive and radically feeling the need to express itself, that is an opportunity for transformation, growth, and not necessarily shaming, not necessarily boxing or labeling, but questioning the function, because everything in life is performing a function with purpose, including our egoic outbreaks. But we've never been given the proposition that we even could question in with ourselves without judgment. See, this is the thing. You can question in, but most questions always come from a place that there's something wrong. But what if we were just easefully questioning out of curiosity whether that emotionally reactive behavior is serving our greatest good if we continue doing it like that? Because it's performing a function right in that moment to show us that it's not natural, and it's likely not going to serve us if we keep doing it like that, because we keep hurting people. We keep distancing ourselves from people. We keep suppressing other people. We keep labeling and blaming other people. We keep outsourcing our sovereignty and giving our power away. And when we have syntropy, self-sovereignty, and self-love in a kind of trifecta working together as a set of awarenesses, we can hold ourselves to account with love, not with judgment, with openness and curiosity, that it serves a function with purpose. And to me, in that, I've come to find that the ego is something more than anything that just benefits loving. And I don't mean celebrating and praising and elevating, but like, just give it a really good hug, because that is what it's really, really actually longing for. It's just like, oh, here I am. I'm gonna make da, 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 da. Just come here. Just come home. Come home to love. Take a deep breath. It's okay.
Wow.
And having that interpersonal dialogue with those parts of self that feel the need to grab the wheel and be in control to keep us safe. Just start showing up as the mature human being we are today, with love, motherly love, fatherly love to self. That's my little.
That's just profound in all ways, Sovereign. Absolutely beautiful. It reminds me of many Indigenous tribes that when one of the tribal members so-called does the wrong thing, there's no punishment per se. What they do is they bring them into the center of the tribal circle, and they all send love. They all send love because they know that that person has forgotten who they are for a period of time, and it's love that assists them to reawaken. So yeah, well, we could listen to you for hours, Sovereign, and we'll just keep doing conversations, obviously, with you and with Shay as well as time goes by. I wish I could do more of these chats each week, but anyway, it's perfect. It's perfect. Whenever the time aligns, we will be back for sure. Thank you to everyone sending in beautiful comments. We love you all so much. And as Shay said so beautifully before, it is about the community. Everyone's adding in equal measure to the energy field, to the frequency, to this upliftment that we're all going through as a collective. So much love to everyone. Much love to you, brother. You're just truly amazing. And we'll look forward to having another conversation soon. Bye for now.
Yeah.